Welcome to the Real Estate Talk podcast with myself, Oliver Ingalls, and my esteemed co-host, Benji Weinberger. If you learn anything from this podcast, if you pick up any hints, any tips, any nuggets, please like, subscribe, and share.
And I met a young woman yesterday and she talked about a goal that she wanted to make £1 million in 1 year. And I said, why $1 million?
Yeah.
If anyone harms my family, I will kill them.
Yeah. Will these AI influencers sell property in the future?
Yes.
Okay, second question then.
I would definitely do a documentary, yeah. Forget about real estate agents. Just the general public. Do you think they'd be interested to know what we're doing in the background and how we're building our business?
For sure.
I think so.
100%.
I think so. Okay. Well, maybe we'll explore that.
Today's podcast is massive. We have Mr. Super Prime himself,
Daniel Daggers, joining us, the UK Real Estate Advisor of the Year from Spears 500, and has sold over $5 billion worth of real estate. Daniel is the owner of DDRE Global, which is the fourth most influential real estate company at selling and marketing homes over £5 million. And wait to hear a funny story how he nearly scored an overhead kick from the halfway line in front of Arsene Wenger.
Daniel has over 150,000 followers across all of his social platforms. He was the first agent to professionalize social media and be at the forefront of its movement. And he's the tech founder of ADVSR, which is marketing over £10 billion worth of real estate globally. And of course, the star of Netflix's production of Buying London.
Let's go.
Let's go. Daniel, our friend, our mentor, our Superman. Mate, thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Okay, we want to get straight into it.
Okay.
Now, the first question I want to ask you, I'd literally at the start just want a yes or no answer, and then we want to dive into it, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Are you scared for the future estate agents that are out there now that are sat behind their corporate desk without taking any initiative to build their personal brand?
Yes.
Tell us why.
But not just the corporate desk.
Tell us why.
It's every desk. If you're not building your personal brand and information is becoming more accessible to more people, then what's the reason why someone would use you to do business? If they can harness the information to make decisions and make appointments through technology, then what's the value an individual offers outside of their personality, their own views, their guidance, their intimate knowledge around a neighborhood or a particular property, or just the customer themselves, because they can empathize with them. All of that becomes unbelievably important, as well as the fact that I'm an Arsenal fan and I wear glasses and I've got a beard and I speak with a little bit of a twang. All these little nuances become the reason why people will do business with you, because they have access to all the information practically, or close to. And if you don't, someone else will. So your only true value add is the human in you, so the HI. And if you're not publicizing who you are to the people around you, and making sure people know that you're good at what you do and are unbelievably passionate, then either a human being is going to beat you to that customer and deliver a greater service, or a robot will.
So if you were...
It's not about corporates, it's about any company.
Yeah.
So if you were running a corporate company, perhaps one that you previously worked at,
Yeah.
and you're worried about the agents and people within those businesses, what would you do differently if you were running one of those businesses?
I think it's very difficult to change the business model, because there are pillars of businesses that have been created over the past 5 decades, and those pillars you cannot move. It's very difficult. And the pillars are the structure of the business and how people are employed or self-employed. You can't just turn around to 5,000 people and say, oh, you have to be self-employed. I'm sorry, because the risk on us is too great as a business. Your CRM that runs the businesses is open. That's a problem, because everyone's got access to all the information. As soon as you turn into a brokerage, you then start saying to people, no, you have to own that particular customer or client. So there's going to be infighting. And you have to teach people to do lots of different things that they've never done before.
So let's say there was a corporate company out there now and they start.
It doesn't have to be a corporate company.
Okay, let's just say there's a company out there now, all right, with employed
It's
agents.
any company that doesn't enable their people to get closer to the customer and relies on the company to get closer to the customer.
Okay, so let's say that company you're out there now and they've sat back and they've taken this on board and they start to go, right, we're going to educate our staff to go and get closer to the customer, to start building their digital brands. That employed role will surely have a growth in the future then as well. It's not just then having to be a brokerage and self-employed. There will be a brand still, but you'll still have the person and the people working within that business that are getting closer to the customer. Is that right?
What's the question?
So do you feel that in the future, it's not just going to be the brokerage model with self-employed agents, but you can have that employed role where they enable their staff to get closer to the customer and build their own businesses too, which ultimately will have the brand and the HR element.
Every business is a technology, media, marketing business. People do the people part. And the people are closest to the customer because they're the ones that walk down the high street and smile at somebody and it's meaningful. They're the ones that create content and create engagement and nurture relationships in person or through digital channels. The individual is closest to the customer. The employed role will always be there, but it will be eroded by the individuals that have the ability to speak and create greater bonds with their audiences and their customer base. And having the freedom to be in places where the employed role isn't is very valuable.
So if those companies don't move with the times,
I just don't think, the point is I don't think it's binary. I think there's erosion in the role. And then you start to think, who does it really impact? Who does it impact the most? Does it impact the guy in his late 30s or mid 30s, or the gal in her mid 30s that has been in the industry for 10 years and have their own client base that they've nurtured for many years and then decide to go independent? No, it doesn't really impact those people. In fact, it enables them to be more successful like you guys and everyone else in our business. Does it impact the 23-year-old who wants to get in the industry? Absolutely. Because the 23-year-old doesn't know yet what professionalism looks like. They've studied their way to success, but the world is very different. And then that 23-year-old needs to spend time with individuals who then have to invest in the 23-year-old, and big corporations will give them that, but it won't enable them to. It won't teach them how to fish.
So those 23-year-olds are out there now,
and then it's going to hurt the people who are at the top end of the market, who are in their 50s. That will not meet as many customers as regularly as individuals that are building their brand online and in person, and you'll eventually have to give your margins away.
So for those 20 to 25-year-olds now who have been in the business 1, 2, 3 years and are just learning their craft, would you say to them, stick there, use the brand around you and the training around you as the stepping stone, but build your personal brand alongside that?
So we've all been building our personal brand. Before you start to produce content on social media, when you walk down the high street and bumped into a client, they would love you for the person that you are, not for the company that you're at. Okay? No one walks around with a you guys aren't walking around with a DDRE sticker on your forehead going, I work at DDRE and I'm in sales. No, people don't look at humans that way. They go, who's this person? Are they meaningful? Do I like them? Yeah. And what information do they have that I don't have? And can I be inspired by them? In some instances. No one's walking around with a sign on their forehead unless you're wearing an umbrella, a DDRE umbrella. So you've always been building your personal brand. Just no one's ever told you about it. I was very conscious about it growing up as a kid because my mum told me to. And I remember walking down that road when she said to me, walk upright. Don't in that way. Like my mum's very firm. Walk upright. Don't drag your heels. Have a smile on your face and keep your head up. Like be proud, in other words, walk proud.
Yeah.
And that was the first taste of like what personal brand looks like and why you dress nicely. The fact that you digitize it means that you can amplify your personal brand. and you can get it further. And people will choose to do business with individuals, not organizations. Organizations will figure out that they're actually technology, media, marketing businesses, not estate agencies. We're just miles ahead of the times.
So going back to the words you just used before of erosion.
Yeah.
And how, as you just mentioned, slowly, the perhaps more experienced, better agents will go in a brokerage model and or will set up by themselves.
Yeah.
Do you think at some point there'll be so much erosion that cliff will just completely fall and one of the big names will have to close?
No, I don't think they'll close. I'm not as binary as that when it comes to organizations. I think that their influence changes and their profitability changes. I don't think it's a Kodak moment or a BlackBerry moment. Okay. But I do think that it's the new version of that, which is erosion. And it's not a fall off the cliff, it's a fast erosion. So the past 5 years, I mean, look at our business. We're one of the most successful real estate businesses in even though we're not a real estate business, but we're one of the most successful real estate businesses in the past 5 years. And we did that. It's self-funded. People are enticed to work with us. We did that in 5 years through COVID. I mean, like, that's how quickly. The point I'm trying to make with that, by the way, is not that we're so good, even though we are really good, but that the customer base wanted it. And what we do know is that the customer base is going to continue to want it at greater strengths, because the customer base is building their own businesses. They're entrepreneurs or CEOs. And one thing is for sure is they're questioning whether or not they need an office on the ground floor with a window and people in it. They want to run platform businesses ideally. They want to be direct to consumers through digital channels. And they're being told by their head of marketing, hey, we need to put 70% of our marketing budget into social media campaigns. Well, when they sit down with our business and they go, well, how do you deliver the message to as many people as possible and get as many eyeballs on my property? Because that's what it's going to boil down to. Because the on-market, off-market thing is going to be unbelievably binary. At some point when someone goes on market, you want the most amount of exposure possible. So change will happen really swiftly. And it's going to continue to go in a singular direction until the next thing comes along.
So AI influencers.
Yeah.
We've obviously started to see more and more out there, on all of our digital platforms that we're looking at.
Yeah.
People who can now sit behind a desk, create.
Like Benji.
Exactly.
This is St. John's Wood and the open. Yeah.
But
that's not the real Benji.
That's not the real Benji.
That's AI.
But anyway, so
AI.
look, we sat behind a desk and someone is making 100, 1,000, 1 million AI influencers, all with different ethnicities and backgrounds and the way they speak and the way that they look. And he knowing that each different AI influencer can speak to a whole different demographic and target an audience.
Yeah.
Will these AI influencers sell property in the future?
Yes.
Okay, second question then. Why did you decide to put so much into people, okay, like you have done Testament, with Benji and I, when actually you could have avoided the headache, avoided all the stress that came with it, and sat back and gone, right, okay, team, right, let's build 1,000 AI influencers agents out there.
So
if you know the secret ingredient already of building brand and getting out there, then surely that would have been a more streamlined version.
Everyone's going to try and find a way to cut the human being out of the process. Okay, I don't believe you can cut the human being out of the process. There's too much risk involved with buying real estate, and you want someone to pin that risk to. Very simple. Plus, there are nuances around someone acting for you that people don't really appreciate until they've got it. When I first set this business up, I didn't know that we were going to have AI. I mean, I had an inkling that it was going to get to AI influencers, but large language models like ChatGPT wasn't around at that point, in 2020. So I couldn't anticipate that. So you have to build a business around values that are hard to change. Okay, it's very hard to change the human experience in our industry or challenge the human experience in our industry. So I'm going to invest in that, and then I have to create compounding values where I don't think can be challenged easily. Okay. Offices can be challenged super easily. Distribution information is going to be challenged, but I don't think a message from an AI bot is going to deliver as much value as you telling me what you think about the property and why you think it's good. Okay. It also can't recognize culture quickly. Trends happen before data, not data before trends. You can spot trends before data can when it comes to culture. I wanted to build a business that protected the human in the service and enticed the human to come and work with us. And I didn't have to do this. Could have retired by now, probably, if I was independent on my own. But I wanted to do it, and I wanted to have the challenge, but I also wanted to help people be more successful.
So whilst AI will hopefully be able to make agents like us be more successful and be more efficient, do you think it will replace jobs in our industry?
So I tweeted this morning. I'll read my tweet out.
I didn't see it.
So I'll read my tweet out to you guys because I'm a bit frustrated that the world has just buried its head, like UK real estate just buried its head in the floor.
Yeah.
And isn't talking about this. It's crazy. So I wrote, no one has any interest in recognizing that our industry is turning upside down and inside out due to media and technology. We've got to wait till the frying pan hits us across the face until most people figure it out, including the public. And then someone said, to what aspect specifically are you referring? So I put, organizations are getting further away from the customer who's being replaced by people, and assume those people will be replaced by smaller groups of people who will then potentially be replaced by. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing happening. Is corporations are now less valuable because they're not speaking to customers as regularly as individuals.
Yeah.
So corporations are going to get replaced by individuals to a certain extent, or their role will be very different. And then and my job as the CEO of this business is to make you guys more successful. How do I do that? I make you 300 times more efficient and have access to data and technology that other people don't have. And if you could be 300 times more efficient, you can do more what they call prospecting or customer acquisition work, i.e. create more content, network with partners, be seen on the high street, all that sort of stuff. And then if you can do all of that, and you can do it at a rapid pace, because speed of information is more important than the quality of it in many instances. Quality is in like what it looks like as opposed to actually the value of it, is incredibly valuable. And that would make, if we make you 300 times, and that's the target, to make you 300 times more efficient, you'll do more business. Where's that business going to come from? Where's it going to come from? Is the AI chatbot or is the AI robot nervous about losing business to you guys? No. But should a human? Yes.
But then I find it hard to see, going back to the question I asked you before about, that cliffhanger. If the companies and the corporates are so far away from the customer and the best individuals are leaving, there's zero value that they can add. And I don't see how a business can operate.
There isn't zero value they can add. They can add value. They add value in different ways.
But if they don't have good people and all the people leave to go to brokerages or set up by themselves.
Okay, so what's going to happen is everyone's going to have access to the same kinds of data. Like when someone says, hey, how much is my 2 up, 2 down house in St. John's Wood worth? It's about 4,000 square feet and it's on this size garden, this side of the road. Like the models now can anticipate what the value of that property is. Okay. But if everyone can do that, the skill is not about valuing property as well as actually anticipating what you can actually put the asking price on for, because you know what's going on in that market, you know who's in that market. Is there wind in your sails? Is there a nuance that's taking place in that market that people don't know about or aren't referencing, right? Like St. John's Wood, you've got the St. John's Wood barracks that will be developed soon. That's going to have a huge impact on that neighborhood. But can a large language model recognize that and benchmark it against previous developments that have taken place and how they've impacted neighborhoods, and therefore you can anticipate where those values might be? No, it can't do that yet. It cannot do that yet, because it also doesn't know how much the St. John's Wood barracks are going to be sold for or valued at. So they cannot anticipate, but you can, because you can earwig or speak to someone involved or find out the lawyer, or, and you can get some information that isn't publicly available, and that can help you in mastering the idea of bringing your client closer to you and saying, listen, I'm your partner. This is the advice I'm going to give you. Yeah. So basic data is like everybody. Everybody it's going to level the playing field.
So look, we have there's a lot of people up and down the country that listen to our podcast, and you speak in a very articulate way about it. And Benji and I have been ingrained in it for years and years now. But for the agent now who's listening, who doesn't quite understand all this and doesn't know how to produce a plan going forward from everything that you've just said.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the business owner that's watching it's got 4 or 5 staff members beneath him.
Yeah.
In a layman's terms plan, okay, what would you say over the next 12 months they can start going out doing tomorrow to start helping action their business or their personal brand or their career becoming more sustainable for the future?
Okay. I would play this podcast out loud whilst they've got their computer working, where they've got ChatGPT open. Let ChatGPT listen to the conversation and then go, I'm an estate agent in Buckinghamshire. Mm-hmm. I have 4 estate agents that work for me. I believe this gentleman has probably got a good idea of what the future looks like. How do I protect my business? These 4 people are employed. This is their salary. Please give me an indication of what I should be doing to protect our business. And then post protecting it, how can we grow it? And ask ChatGPT.
And that will give you the steps.
Yeah.
That you feel will be right.
Have you done that?
I'm in large language models all day long.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff that I'm doing is like with the help of the people that I've got around me, friends and entrepreneurs and Sarah upstairs and Elliot, and we're very fortunate to have really talented people in our business. And we're doing things that no one has even thought about, like a million miles away. I've spoken to bankers, lawyers, architects, interior designers, estate agents, all the people in our sphere that we do business with. And if you ask them if they use ChatGPT, they're like, yeah, I asked it a question the other day and it gave me an answer. And I'm like, it's very difficult without having this. When I was setting up the business, I was consuming a lot of content around what CEO needs to do and my vision and what my role is. And my role is to have a very strong vision, which thankfully I do have. Yeah, very strong vision. It could be wrong. Have a very strong vision and attack that vision. And whilst doing so, get core groups of people nearby that really believe in the vision and want to go for it too. And we're all rowing the same boat, and then more people will join us as they'll see our success. Because once you see something, you can't unsee it. Mm-hmm. And people want to be more successful, so they need to go to a place that's more successful. But it's all built around the vision and people really believing in it and attacking it.
And so for the people that don't have the accessibility to the entrepreneurs, the creative minds around them, the access that you have to those ultra high net worths that have run their own businesses.
The ultra high net worths aren't talking to me about how technology's like impacting their businesses. They're ultra high net worths because they've built their businesses already. Yeah. This is a new form of technology, and how are they going to build their own businesses with this new form of technology, or how is it going to create a far greater multiple for them? Is really interesting.
Okay.
So do you want me to explain what an LLM is?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So a large language model, because that's what it is, it anticipates what the next word is. So if I said happy, and then it was waiting for the next word, it would probably say birthday. Okay? Mm-hmm. And it's going to anticipate what the next word is through your whole sentence. Mm-hmm. And that's how it builds and forms what it says. Mm-hmm. And it's trained on the internet. So they give access to the internet. It's reading the internet all the time. So it's using up a lot of energy. That's why everyone's talking about energy now, and electricity and nuclear power and all that sort of stuff. Using up a lot of energy to read the internet, everything that's on the internet. Can you imagine? And it then forms an opinion against it and then anticipates what's the next word to deliver after you prompt it. Mm-hmm. So there's something called prompt engineering now, where the better your English is on explaining your need, the better your response is going to be. Yeah. So that's going to be a skill, and people being employed on the west coast of the US as prompt engineers to understand how to prompt the LLM for better responses. Okay.
So where were you educating yourself throughout the last 5 to 10 years? Like, what platforms do you use? You know, as I say earlier, you have access to entrepreneurs around you, a great team around you who are inspiring you. And for everyone else out there that wants to start learning and wants to start educating themselves on a daily basis, where would you advise them to go?
I would go onto TikTok and to Instagram. I'd go in their For You page, and I would type in aspiring people, inspiring people, technology, social media, personal brand, and I would search all these functions, and then all the information that you will be served will be around those topics. How can I be a better real estate agent? Real estate advice. And what happens, instead of your You page being full of girls in bikinis or Arsenal kits, I'm not suggesting mine is any of those. Maybe Arsenal kits. I would do that. Okay. And I would consume content. You're in your phone anyway. Consume content in that space. And then listen to this podcast.
Okay, so then someone's sitting at their desk and they do that. They use ChatGPT, as Ollie said, how do I have a business plan for the next 12 months? And they do that. But they're not on socials, they're not on digital, they have no personal brand in the ether. How does someone build a personal brand?
What do you want people to talk to what do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room?
Good guy, hungry, ambitious.
Well, no, that was
Oh, sorry. You looked at me when you asked the question.
Sore throat. It's always got sore throat.
Always moaning.
Always start sentences with a but. That's how you build personal brand. Be very conscious about who you are and what you do and where you go and who you're with. Like, if you want to succeed, you need to think about stuff like that. If you're a reprobate, if you're a drug taking alcoholic, okay, are you going to deliver a good service? Bearing in mind, you are the service. You're the individual who's delivering the service. No, you're probably not. Right? You're going to have an imbalance in your decision making and your approach. Okay, well, these are the things you need to think about. High value people want to deal with people that dress nicely. Okay, what does dress nicely look like for those people? Okay, well, I probably have to dress a bit like that just to make sure that my customer avatar appreciates me.
They've started to think about the pillars of what they would want their personal brand to look like.
It's super simple, right? You want to be successful at something, okay? Don't pretend to be somebody that you're not. I'm going to put a suit on and pretend to be really professional and then leave and then go out on the lash and get hammered every night. And then people will take a picture of you and wonder who the hell you are, because you're going to have people more aware than, there's no secrets anymore. It's very difficult to hide a secret, especially if it's about you. It's really difficult. You can't hide anymore. You are your brand ambassador. You are the person that you have to speak to every morning and go, okay, I need to perform today.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Don't worry about being perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm far from perfect. I've done, I do silly things, and actually I try to create spaces for people to go and be silly, so they're not looked at and harmed. People say not nice things about people. I'll do funny things on social media channels because I want to create a wider view and aspect of what you can do over social media channels. And it's funny, if anyone ever says to anybody, hey, you look ridiculous on social media, what are you doing social media for? I would say to you, I would simply answer with one sentence: I'm protecting my future. Yeah. Super simple. I'm protecting my future. You don't have to understand it. That's absolutely fine. But I do.
For the person out there now who doesn't want to go on social channels, okay, do you feel that will be paramount in a potential failure in the future? I mean, do you think it will be the only pillar that...
I think it will impact their future?
Yeah.
And their success? Yes.
Let's say they're out meeting clients every day. They're out networking. They're out being closer to the customer. And I know that's only they may be able to speak to 10 people per day rather than speaking to 1,000 people per day on digital platforms. Okay.
Yeah.
But will that person not succeed because they're not on this? Is personal brand not the be all and end all?
No, your personal brand is you.
No. Okay. Let's say your digital brand.
Hold on. It's whether or not you're amplifying your brand. It's whether or not you're creating an opportunity for you to be successful with people you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's say you are and I deal with lots of royal family members, which you'll know about. Yet say you're the son of a king. Do you need a personal brand? Probably not. But the government may want you to have one. Okay? Because you can speak to millions of people and show them that you're a good human and you care about your people. Okay? And is that going to help your country? Yes, absolutely it will. That's why people are going to Dubai.
Yeah.
If you're a council estate kid and you don't know any wealthy people, does it help you? Of course it does. If you're really proud about what you do and you're excellent, do you want more people to know who you are and what you do? Of course you do. And if you don't, someone else will.
Yeah.
So the other thing about it is that it's like a warranty for clients. And what I mean by that is, one, when someone says to you, let's go to the basics. Let's say you guys were single, okay? Like I did this with a friend of mine about 7 years ago, okay? I was sat in Chiltern Firehouse with some friends, and two girls were sat next to me, they're friends of mine, and one girl said to the other, hey, I've got a guy who you might be interested in. And she was like, okay, cool. And the first thing she said was, let me see his Instagram. Now she's doing that because she wants to find out data around that individual and whether or not she's going to like him. Yeah. Like pictures, what he looks like, where he goes, who he's with, where he spends time, where he travels to, what he listens to, all that sort of stuff. It's why dating apps are so successful, because it gives you that information in the platform.
Yeah.
But social media is a place that people use as a reference tool. It's also a warranty. I'll explain what I mean by that. Anyone can produce a piece of content now that could go viral online. Anybody. Okay? You can have somebody that has no digital footprint whatsoever, gets into a £100 million home, films it, puts it on social media, and it can go to 100 million people. Okay. Really, you want to deal with someone who understands the accountability, of having a digital footprint and how important it is to protect it and do right by your clients and your customers. Okay. So I would want to do business with someone that has it and understands its influence.
Yeah.
Okay. Because with great power comes
great responsibility.
Great responsibility. And you want someone who understands digital platforms and is conscious about its distribution. The other thing is that, God forbid someone does something wrong and their business is built online. Let's do it a different way. Let's say someone works in an office, okay, and works for an amazing brand, okay, and decides to do something dodgy and steals something from somebody, okay, money, let's say, in a transaction. They can leave that company in a millisecond and go abroad and live happily ever after with the £40,000, £50,000, £500,000 that they've stolen. But if your business is online and it's connected to your personal brand, that human being can't do anything now with that personal brand that they've been building over digital channels. Because whoever you've scammed out of X amount of money or done something wrong to, they can find you wherever you go. So it's actually a form of protection for the customer and client. It's like a warranty, a guarantee that this individual has taken their life very seriously and they become 100% accountable to what they do in their actions.
Love that. Okay, I want to ask you another question. London.
Pardon?
London.
Yes.
Now,
greatest city in the world.
Greatest city in the world.
Is it? Yes.
I think we're obviously going through cultural, economic, financial, social,
political,
transformation at the moment.
Good word to use.
Okay. We are having 1,000 millionaires leave a month. We aren't breeding.
You guys haven't left yet.
Not yet. We're not breeding, I don't feel, in the UK, a platform for entrepreneurs to be successful. Okay. And I was listening to a podcast just this morning, actually, and it was talking about AI. And the US, for example, invest 20 times more per year into AI than we do. And out of the countries across the globe, I think we were like the 20th. Do you worry for London?
No, I don't worry for London. There's a couple of ways of the way I look at this, and I speak to my friends about this who are clients, and they've done amazing things, and they're all over the world. And they all say London's the greatest city in the world. the thing about it is that global wealth is much more mobile than ever before.
Yeah.
So they can travel where they want to travel. And everyone's running away from the tax man. That's the perceived view, that people just run away from the tax man. So tax is a form of...
it's a driver, isn't it, to where they want
tax
to...
is a form of, lever.
Yeah.
May not work as well as it once worked. Okay? And I'm pretty certain that when you go to a country that has a very low tax rate, once you're embedded and you're in the school system, they're just going to ramp up the tax on you. Okay, the tax man's coming regardless. But without a shadow of a doubt, we're going through an industrial revolution. I talked about this years ago with you before I met Ollie. Culturally, we need to start embracing entrepreneurs and people doing things differently.
Yeah.
Okay, we do have this sort of tall poppy syndrome here in the UK, that we don't like people doing the outlier thing. Okay, which is very dangerous in a world where change is the only place for success now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to embrace those people that are doing things differently. I found it very difficult doing it. Thankfully, I've got very thick skin. And now there's a cohort of us, and we're not the outliers. In fact, we're growing at a rapid pace. So after a little while, the early adopters really start to succeed, and then people go, okay, this is something I need to get onto.
Yeah.
The issue that we have is this early adopter thing is very slow here in the UK, and it's very fast everywhere else around the world.
Yeah.
And in industrial revolutions and evolutions, because I don't like using negative terminology, what happens is that previously the infrastructure of London allowed you, because you had skill and talent and you had great networks and infrastructure, and it's a great accepting community to a certain extent. What happens, it was a great place for you to build businesses in traditional formats, because it was like, everyone's here, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just copy the next person.
Yeah.
But our world is digitized and it's global. And so we're not in competition with like Dublin, or Birmingham, like London as a city. We're in competition with Riyadh, Dubai, Miami, New York, LA, like all these global cities. And so if we don't inspire people to go and do things differently and support them early, okay, and the government can do that with incentives and other stuff, we're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
The thing that I see in my cohort of friends outside work is that there is a strong community, okay, that is very influential and powerful and smart and intelligent and speaks the world's language, which is English, that are building the future through the digitization of our world, but they don't get enough airtime.
Yeah.
And that is a problem for me. It's like one of the biggest issues is the way our public relations work. We're constantly supporting the big guys who are already there, and we don't give enough airtime to the small businesses that are really making a difference.
Yeah.
And like the way I would look at it is that the newspapers, bearing in mind it's not paper anymore, like they can have 15 pages online. There should be 3 pages that are just for startups. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Have space in our newspaper for free. Just give us your content and your ideas, and just go into the space for us. Yeah. Okay. And let's create some awareness. For people that are doing amazing things. And I'm in some WhatsApp groups with incredible people from all over the world that are like really building British optimism and building amazing things. So there are cohorts of people that are doing that. You just don't know them yet.
But I was just going to say, so
you look at Harry Stebbing, he's raised like billions of dollars from his podcast that happened in the UK. Yeah. But that's one guy.
I was going to say.
In the US, there's like probably 10.
I was going to say.
Okay. But that's because their population is bigger and they have more risk capital. Risk capital being individuals that are happy to put their money at risk for big upside. Here, we have a very traditional group of people, hierarchical systems where these people are very reluctant to do anything that's different. Yeah.
So if you're saying we're going to get left behind and we adopt things a lot at a slower pace than perhaps, the US, for example, what knock-on impact do you think that will have on London real estate?
Oh, I think people all over the world will always want to buy real estate here in London. I don't think it will change. Weather conditions are going to drive that as well. Speed of travel.
Schooling.
rule of law.
But maybe not own. Do you think that they will want to own property here, or actually there'll just be different methods? Obviously, renting like one out, will there be co-ownership?
I would look at real estate like stocks and shares.
Yeah.
And I can see people digitizing the ownership structure and selling fragments.
Yeah.
Fractional as in fractional ownership, which you've been involved with before. You did Bitcoin. You did a Bitcoin sale.
Yeah.
But fractional ownerships, forms of investment, yield driven. Every asset's going to be yield driven to a certain extent. I think young people are less romantic about the real estate that they own. So then it forms like a financial asset.
Yeah.
I can see hyper movement.
Yeah.
So I can see people owning fractions of real estate and living in them for 2 months a year.
Yeah.
And bouncing around the world through their 20s. If you look at the average age of people that are having children is much later than it once was.
Like 32 now.
So you've got 10 to 15 years of single life or with a partner, and you can bounce around the world without having a form of commitment.
Yeah.
Like, I need a mortgage at 21 to buy my first home. I think that's an old drum that's being beaten, maybe.
Yeah.
I can see young people building their businesses online and being hypermobile and not necessarily wanting the burden but owning a property.
Yeah.
No one ever talks about that. Everyone's like, let's buy real estate as quickly as possible. But the inflation, we've got no asset inflation. We've had no asset inflation. So someone 10 years ago could have bought a property and not made any money on it.
Yeah.
Or they could have been incentivized to build a business by the government and have at least tried to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And maybe some do.
Yeah.
And they build a business in the UK that's really successful, and then they have financial freedom to buy a property or not buy a property and have a choice. I just think people are going to have different views about what they want to do.
For us to change, though,
and they'll have that ability.
Yeah. For us to change, though, surely as a government, and it's the people who are running the country. Okay. And, Donald Trump, like him or loathe him, okay, there has been, in his previous administration as president of the US, their economy grew, their stock market grew, people had more money in their pockets, and he's a businessman. We don't tend to go down that route with our hierarchy.
Well, he's a bit of an outlier, right?
He is.
And that's partly the reason why people, I think, voted for him, is that he was an outlier.
Yeah.
You have professional politicians. And I think professional politicians are dangerous, because it's like if anyone's worked in a big corporate, they would know that there's some people who are amazing performers and they don't climb the corporate ladder particularly well. And then there's some people that really play the corporate game very well and get to the top of the business.
Yeah.
But really they're not necessarily, they don't really get the business that well. They just play the game well.
Yeah.
And I would want someone who's running my business to know all the intricacies of that, or as much of it as possible.
Yeah.
All the pains that people go through, the stresses that people go through. It's like me running this business.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to profess to be the best CEO on the planet. I'm trying. Like, I'm really trying hard. But when you're going through aggro, or you got trouble with a deal, or you feel a certain way, I felt it too. I felt it too.
Yeah.
I know what it's like. I know exactly what it's like. When you have to do viewings at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday or a Saturday, I've been there. I know what it's like.
Yeah.
When you have a deal that's fallen out of bed, I know what it's like.
Yeah.
When you've been working on something for a year and a half and then the deal happens, I know what it's like.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to build a digital footprint. I've walked the path. I know the aggro that you could get. I know how your wife or your husband or your friends or the people that are in the real estate community can give you grief about it and nudge you every now and again. I know about all of that.
And that's...
So I speak your language.
Yeah, 100%. And also it's experiences that you've had throughout your 25, 30-year career. And it goes on...
What I just want to say about the government thing is that I want someone in the government, because that was your question.
Yeah.
I want our government to act like a business.
Yeah.
They have the duty to look after its people.
Yeah.
Like, I want to look after you guys.
Yeah.
Okay. They have the duty to look after its people, and they need to do best endeavors.
Yeah.
Do they understand business?
Yeah.
Because London now in the UK is in a trade war with everyone else in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. So is the US. You can see it right now, what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. I want people at the top of our country who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are really astute business people. I've got a friend of mine who's in the government or like on the periphery of the government. And they've said that there's very little business acumen there.
Yeah.
Like that's super concerning for me.
Yeah, very much
So now when you've got talent,
yeah,
let's assume I've got a bit of talent. Just a little bit. I can get up and move.
Yeah. But why? So why haven't you?
Go.
Why haven't you?
Why?
Yeah.
Because I think the pendulum swings.
Yeah.
The pendulum constantly swings. And there's an incentive for the world.
Yeah.
Okay, it's partially greed, but it's also opportunity that the market does this.
Cyclical, yeah.
Okay, the market does this. The reason why, let me do it this way. The market does this. The reason why it does that is that people want it to do that. Because that's how they create opportunity.
Of course, yeah.
So at the moment, London's hurting and the pendulum's going this way. Okay, fine. In my eyes, in 27 years of working, okay, and watching how history often repeats itself, even though now it's a slightly different time, pendulums swing back.
Yeah.
So I've never been the one who jumps on a trend and wants to do it immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. I've always been the person who wants to play so far in advance that I'm prepared to be really patient.
Yeah.
And then when it comes in, I'm in the best place possible,
Your
right?
chips are in.
I'm stacked.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
And I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So that's how I want to play the game.
So I want to talk about something else slightly off topic. I think I've learned more in 2.5 years, 3 years or whatever it's been now shortly with you, than I have in the last 10 years of my career. Okay. And now I find myself, I was on holiday last week. I was at 11 o'clock in the evening. Alex and Alfie had gone to bed and I'm sat by the pool listening to a podcast, FT Economics or Stephen Bartlett or X, Y, and Z. And I'm constantly trying to improve myself, learn more, and be ahead of the game. Okay. And I wish I'd kind of known this 10 years ago. And it actually goes back to the question I want to ask is about our education system. I've got a 4-year-old. You obviously have your beautiful son now as well. Are you worried about the kids growing up now? I was speaking to my wife the other day and I feel that I'm quite lucky to be in a position where, because I am learning, I can educate my son as he goes through.
Yeah.
But we are probably in 5% of the UK in that sphere who get to learn and get to understand and educate themselves with the people around them, and we can then teach our kids. The other 95% who go to school and they learn geography and all the other crap that we've learned and we've never used. There's not something wrong with geography, unless you want to,
and like the topography of the land, that sort of
tectonic plates and all the rest.
I like
of
the
stuff.
tectonic plates.
That's the only thing I remember from geography. For us to become better and more educated, we have to revolutionize now our education system, which is archaic. It's been like the real estate industry. We've had the same things every single year. We are changing. And I was speaking to a client the other day of mine who's starting to try these, again, AI schools, and he's trying to speak to the government about changing the education system and having more thought process with entrepreneurship and AI and how to integrate this into to these kids' mindsets. What would you do? You're the head of the education system, okay?
Oh my goodness.
And
from
what you've learned,
great question.
I can't do that. I can't do that.
But how would you change it for Donnie? Okay, for your son, for the future,
for my kid. I'm a new parent. Okay, I'm a new parent, so like, I now understand why people run home to see their kids. Okay, I never got it in the first place. Like, I was like, kid's gonna be there tomorrow. Like, this is super important. No, I was in my own in my own zone.
Yeah,
that's what I was interested in. Like, let's have this phone call. Let's have this meeting. You're gonna have to strike the balance between educating your kids over what technology can do and what they can do. And I think it will probably be painful doing it because kids get addicted to the iPhone, the phones, the computers and everything. You can get addicted to it. But if your kid doesn't use it, then my kid will be miles behind the next kid. So he has to have the ability of using it and know what it can do. Like, how can you utilize this technology to support you? Do I think the kids in 25 years or 20 years or 15 years are going to be doing the same jobs as us? No. It's like when my dad said he used to bath once or twice a week, and he'd sit in a bath and he would bang the bath or hit a button or something. I can't remember what it was, or ring a bell, and a person would come round and fill the bath up with hot water.
Yeah.
I'm looking back at that going, you are crazy.
Yeah.
Are you serious? And they'd be like, the toilet was outside the house in the garden.
Mm.
My dad sounds like he's 1,000 years old. He's 83.
Mm.
People are going to look at our lives and go, you were sat behind a desk for 30 years of your life.
Mm.
And that's crazy.
Yeah.
We weren't built to do that. We were built to play.
Yeah.
We were built to do stuff physically.
Mm.
So the only way that I'm really going to, I don't know what the future looks like in 15 to 20 years time. Okay. I think it's going to be really different.
Mm.
But one thing is for sure, my kid needs to feel self-worth,
Mm-hmm.
be incredibly self-aware, incredibly confident, strong physically and mentally, and empathic and kind.
Yeah.
They're the things I have to plow into my kid.
Mm.
When he falls over, I'm going to laugh. When he doesn't make the tackle, I'm going to say, okay, let's understand why.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that I do my very best so that whatever the environment looks like in 20 years' time, my kid is unbelievably well placed to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all about him. All about him and any other kids that we have. Self-worth, self-confidence, determination, all these sort of things.
Mm.
Kindness, empathetic, all that sort of stuff. They're anchors for everything.
Mm.
For you to be good at service, you need to be empathetic,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to understand humans, but you also need to have a lot of self-worth, and understand what you're good at and what you're bad at. So then you can have empathy for other people. If he's a real estate agent in 20 years' time, if the job is still there, then I want to prepare him for being good at that.
Yeah.
If it's much more physical work, or we're just playing, literally playing in the future, I want him to be great at it.
Mm.
So that might be running or carrying stuff or creative things, painting.
But that means he'll learn more from you than he will from the 6-7 hours a day or whatever they spend at school now.
No, I don't know that. I don't think that's the case. Like, I'm terrible at English.
Mm.
I can't spell. I really cannot spell.
Yeah.
I'm self-diagnosed dyslexic. I'm terrible at it.
Mm.
So he's not going to learn how to spell through me.
Yeah.
Would you homeschool him?
Well, I've thought about it.
Mm.
I thought about homeschooling. We're looking at schools at the moment. I'm prepared to question the tradition of education.
Yes.
I think being prepared to question things is good.
Yeah, I agree.
Not doing things totally opposite to everyone else for the sake of doing it. Just questioning the principles around it.
Mm.
Going to school is an important thing where you can meet other kids that are different to you.
You learn a lot. Yeah.
You learn how to converse with other kids.
Yeah.
It's why I'm Jewish. I'm not sure whether or not I want to send my kid to a Jewish school where it's just full of Jewish kids. Okay? Because we don't just do business with Jewish people. We do business with people who are Muslim and Sikh and Christian and black and white and brown and Asian. And I want my kid to understand, you have to understand different cultures.
Yeah.
Different ways.
Yeah.
Different reasoning. Different whys.
Mm.
They're the things that I really think about. Yeah. About education anyway.
Love that. Okay. So we finish off with some of the
Quick
fire questions.
Okay.
These are sometimes questions that people have asked that have been watching. So we haven't actually read these before, so they'll be as much of a surprise to you as they are to us.
Okay.
But they are quick fire.
I'm getting nervous here.
You get nervous. Ben, do you wanna go with the first one?
Yeah, I'll go, which is actually one I wrote down. And as we're on the topic of your new son. So you go home and your amazing partner says in her accent, "Danny, I'm pregnant." What's your first thought?
I'm like, wicked, that's amazing. I've got to pay for school fees.
Yeah.
I know. I'm delighted. Oh my God. Like, having our kid is just, sorry, this is meant to be quick fire.
That's
the best thing ever.
Yeah. Do you think? And I'm sorry, this isn't quick fire.
This is.
But I think this is nice. It's
slow
good,
fire question.
It's good for we had Serge and we spoke about it as well. Do you think it has changed you as a human, a businessman, since having your son?
The first emotions that I ever had when I saw our little boy,
Yeah,
was if anyone harms my family, I will kill them.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've never really felt that way.
Yeah.
On my anger levels, I never get to red.
Yeah.
Very rare. Very, very rare. So that I was just like,
Wow.
like, don't dice this up so that you just hear the raw.
I'm going to kill them raw. Okay, that's it. That's the clip.
It was that. And then just a huge amount of pride and responsibility. Now, I've had a lot of pride in my life and I am very responsible. But I realized that everything that I do is for someone else, not for me. And I'm very happy with that.
Love that. Love that. Okay, let's have a look. Have you ever had an I made it moment yet? And if so, when was it?
Last night when we watched it. No, never had an amazing moment. No.
I made it moment, as in like
I made it moment. No, I haven't made it.
No. When in your vision,
this is really simple for people. Okay,
yeah,
is that when they look at you, they're going to be admired by you.
Yeah,
and they're going to be like, "Wow, he's really made it."
Yeah.
Do you feel that you've really made it?
No.
Okay, so everyone's playing the same game,
of course.
And whoever you bump into at any point in their life,
It's
no
never
one goes,
made it.
no.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter how wealthy you are.
Yeah.
Because you just want to get wealthier.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how strong you are because you just want to get stronger. It doesn't matter how fast you are, you want to get faster.
Yeah.
And that is just it's a molecule in our world, that's inside us that just wants us to improve.
Yeah.
So you sold $100 million home, didn't think at that point?
No, I thought this is cool.
Yeah, this is cool.
I was like, started off selling studio flats for 80 grand. And now I've done, I represent really like doing the $100 million deal is important for everyone else. It's like Netflix. Okay. Netflix for me, I'm still the same person. Other people change around me. I'm not different. I'm the same person. And I haven't changed.
Yeah.
So people's perception of you changes. I don't walk around going, oh yes, I've done $100 million deal and, and others.
Yeah.
That people don't really know about and that we're doing or trying to do. But I don't go around with a badge on my forehead or on my arm saying this is what I've done. No. Other people's perception of me is different.
And it does relate back to once you've done it, like I did my biggest deal last year. The thing is you wake up the next day and you're like,
you got to do it again.
Yeah, I want the next one. I want the high value one.
So the
you don't stop, do you?
So the point is, and I met a young woman yesterday and she talked about a goal that she wanted to make £1 million in 1 year. And I said, why $1 million?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, it's a nice round number and like, it would be great and whatever. And I said, but what happens when you hit 999,000? Are you less?
Are you upset?
Do you value yourself less?
Yeah.
I said to her, it's not about the result.
Yeah.
It's all about the skill and the consistency.
Yeah.
Because if you're around really good people and you learn regularly, you will naturally get better as long as your consistency is there and your commitment is there. And then God knows where the world's going to take you. I've been really consistent in my life and I'm super committed. I'm all in. I'm pop committed. Okay. In whatever I choose to do. I don't do loads of things, do I? Very small amount of things I really focus on, but I'm really good at them. So I'm going to continue to do that. And that's fine. And where I get to is where I get to. If I build a business with 50,000 people in it, well, great. If I build a business with 5,000 people in it, well, great. that's just how I look at things.
Right, next question.
Sorry, it's not very quick fire, is it?
No, slowest fire, but it's good, it's good. Netflix.
Never heard of it.
It was obviously great for the business, great exposure, but it was cut. There wasn't a series 2. Was there anything that could have been done differently?
Let's say that you're producing a real estate show in London, okay? And you want it to be incredibly successful. What would you want to happen in that show?
Are you asking this question?
Yeah.
Honest answer?
Yeah.
Genuine authenticity, deals.
Okay. So that's you. But if you looked at the data in the world and how they think about it, they would want to see an affair on TV. Okay. They'd want people throwing champagne glasses at one another. Okay. It was an entertainment show. I would love to do a documentary because we're shaping the future of our industry. I mean, who wouldn't want to do a documentary with us?
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Agreed.
That's the thing that I would be interested in.
Yeah.
We did Netflix knowing full well it was an entertainment show. Okay. There were things about it that I would have done differently. Okay. But now I know.
Yeah.
And I've got experience in doing something that very few people have done before, and therefore I can choose to do it again if I want to at some point in a different guise. And I love the fact that we tried it, and it was successful for us. And just because it doesn't keep going doesn't mean we can't necessarily garner more value from it.
Yeah.
Of course we can.
Yeah.
So is that I heard it here first? You want to do a documentary?
I would definitely do a documentary, yeah. I mean, we're probably going to onboard it ourselves, and we'll do a behind-the-scenes documentary. I think this is... Let me ask you a question. Forget about real estate agents, just the general public. Do you think they'd be interested to know what we're doing in the background and how we're building our business?
For sure.
I think so.
100%.
I think so. Okay. Well, maybe we'll explore that.
Maybe we'll have to do the real estate.
I didn't want to do
podcast.
Dancing on Ice.
Can we help?
Can you help?
We'll be the
Of course
production.
you can. You just got to be amazing.
We'll be the
self
host,
like
mate.
you are.
We'll be the hosts. Right, next one.
Go on.
One thing you hate about managing
By the way,
people,
just
but I
one
think we
second.
should change that.
Just one thing. No, just wait 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. Knowing where we believe the future looks like.
Yeah.
When you speak to the large language model that you choose and ask who Daniel Daggers is, yeah, do I have to worry about my personal brand being eclipsed now?
Right.
And our brand as a business? No.
Well, if we don't continue what we're doing,
But
if
we are continuing.
Yeah.
We've got a very high base level that we're working from now.
Correct.
So doing the Netflix thing was really important for us, right?
Yeah.
Because we knew that it was going to impact the digital footprint of our business.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that.
Yeah.
We knew that.
Yeah.
And that's created it now.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm going to change this question slightly because someone's put one.
It's okay, go for it.
One thing you hate about managing people, but I don't think hate's the right word for it. What's the biggest challenge around managing people? You know, you've started 5 years ago, there was 4 of you or 2 of you at the start. You had then a team of 5, 6 for the first couple of years. Now we're at a team of 50, 30 all day. You know, like, what's the biggest challenge for you?
The biggest challenge, there's 2. One is I see the best in everybody. I want to find a reason why I love somebody, and I think that they can be well beaters. Okay? Sometimes people aren't well beaters. So there's that. Okay? The thing that frustrates me most is people's capacity to convince themselves not to do something that we know would benefit them. Talk themselves out of a form of commitment and consistency. And that is the most difficult thing because you can see it.
Yeah.
You see it every day.
Yeah.
And self-discipline, how you drive self-discipline is really difficult.
Yeah. I was going to say that must be difficult.
Yeah.
If you weren't in real estate,
Uh-huh.
the answer can't be footballer.
Yeah.
What would you be doing?
I don't really know. I like helping people. So educating, PE teacher. My favorite teacher was a PE teacher. Yeah, coach or teacher of some sort.
Yeah, nice. We were watching the Arsenal Madrid game last
Do you
night.
mean like
which,
the mighty Arsenal?
which you two were obviously very happy. And I was, actually, I owe you £100. I bet I just remembered actually.
Maria owes
Get
me
that out.
£100. I sent her a Revolut request immediately with a smiley face.
I bet Daniel last night that Madrid would go through, and I'm gonna have to
But that was a ridiculous bet, wasn't
go
it?
and get some money out.
Ridiculous.
But there was something you were talking about slightly, and I think we got off topic because I think Arsenal scored about Arsene Wenger.
Really?
There was a story about Arsene Wenger,
Oh, yeah.
and you started, and
So I'll tell you something funny. This is how ridiculous my head can be sometimes, right? I'm playing football. It's in North London. Okay. It's a Sunday. I think it was a Sunday league game. I'm about 19. Okay. So I'm playing semi-professional football, but sometimes I sneakily play with my mates on a Sunday morning. And I was a very good footballer. Benj?
All right.
What,
Yes,
mate?
yes.
What, mate? I was a very good footballer, okay?
Yeah.
And we're playing. It's a beautiful day. I'll never forget this. Right? It's so ridiculous. It's a beautiful day, sunny day. My dad watches me every game. He's on the sideline. He's watching me play. We're playing, and everyone's like, "There's Arsene Wenger." And Arsene Wenger's...
And it was your dad?
No. What are you talking about? My dad's on the sideline. He's watching me play, and people are talking on the sideline. They're like, Arsene Wenger, this Arsene Wenger. So Arsene Wenger's walking past, and he stops, and he's with his dog. He stops with watching the game.
No way.
So I thought, here's my chance. And the ball comes over. I'm like near the halfway line, and I try an overhead kick. And I thought to myself, and I totally flopped. And I could just totally imagine what Arsene Wenger was thinking at the time, like,
What a load of shit.
what a volley. I can see it saying in French. And I'll never forget it, because I was like, immediately after I knew how ridiculous it was.
Yeah.
And I was just laughing to myself
Yeah.
about it. Sorry, I'm crying here.
Yeah.
But it was wicked. It
That's
was
brilliant.
so cool.
I love
It
that
was so
story.
funny.
That's
Yeah.
wicked.
Right, last question
Last
before
one.
we wrap up. And as Ollie mentioned, we all watched the game last night together.
Yeah.
Assuming this doesn't go out after the semi-finals and hopefully we don't lose, are we going to win the Champions League?
Yeah, I think we can win the Champions League. Yes. I think we no injuries and no suspensions. You know, Partey suspended for the first game against PSG, and I think the reason why we beat PSG so convincingly recently was because we have two very physically strong, two very physical midfield players that are very dominant. They're very dominant in the challenge, very dominant in possession, and they have two smaller guys and one big guy. We have two big guys and one small guy, and they really dominate. And without him there, I think we're going to have to bring Mourinho in. And then that would mean that hopefully Kai Havertz is back to play up front. And that is a problem, because he might not be fit and we might have to shuffle the pack a little bit. But outside that, I think, 100% we can win.
Good. Well, brilliant. Thank you ever so much for coming on. We really appreciate it, as always. The insights.
You do realise that I have an appearance.
I knew you were going to say that. I was going to say it myself. Send us an invoice.
Send us an invoice. But no, honestly, your insights are always invaluable. I think we are probably lucky that we get it on a daily basis. Yeah. But it's probably been a great hour and a bit or whatever we've done it for the people watching. They get an insight into the future. So thank you very much for spending your time with us. We, as always, appreciate it.
And if you want to see Daniel dancing on social media, where can people find you?
You can find me at Daniel_Daggers on almost all social channels, and I hope to see you there. Peace.
Thank you very much. Thank you.